Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. We are actually going to talk about why algorithmic stablecoins could actually moon Bitcoin. Yes, we know about Terra Luna, but did you know that Tron, some people who affectionately call Tron Chuck E. Cheese token, is actually creating their own stablecoin as well. It's going to be called USDD. Justin Sun announced this, and Near is also going to create their own stablecoin. Now, the founder of UST, Do Kwon, has actually said he expects many of these ecosystems to create their own algorithmic stablecoin or stablecoin backed by other reserves besides the US dollar. The Fed's probably shaking in their boots because they want all stablecoins to be backed by the US dollar. Now, on the other side, I do actually believe stablecoins backed by the US dollar are actually safer than these that are backed by other things, because some of these other things are very volatile assets. I do actually believe that Tron's actually backing their stablecoin with Tron for some part, and Tron is extremely volatile. If Tron goes down a lot, obviously that stablecoin will not have a peg. That's very good. So, but there's many decentralized networks out there. They might actually all have stablecoins soon, and they're going to need to buy reserves for those stablecoins. We know famously that Do Kwon is trying to buy $10 billion worth of Bitcoin to act as reserves for Terra Luna, along with other tokens. But Bitcoin's going to take up a large part of that reserve because Bitcoin is the most stable and most reliable of the cryptocurrencies. So like he actually can keep the Terra Luna peg better. Bitcoin is not likely to lose 90% of its value overnight like some of the other smaller cryptocurrencies, so it's actually pretty good to use as a reserve. But think about this, if a lot of cryptos are building these kind of like stable coins that are backed algorithmically by a basket of assets, and that basket of assets includes Bitcoin to a large part, you have two things. One, if Bitcoin massively drops, the world economy goes into ruins, and then we go back to tribal living. But two, there is going to be a giant spike in demand for Bitcoin in the future as more of these coins actually demand to buy Bitcoin for their reserves, and they're not going to be able to get all of it via OTC. Do Kwon himself is actually buying a lot of the reserves for UST on the spot market, and that's really good for us investors. We've actually seen that recently. When Do Kwon actually buys large amounts, Bitcoin tends to pump. But what if it's just not Do Kwon now? What if it's like 20, 30 networks competing to buy billions of dollars worth of BTC each? That's a lot of Bitcoin, a lot more Bitcoin locked up in reserves. And at that point, there won't be that much BTC to move around in either the spot or BTC markets. And people that actually want extra Bitcoin, like Michael Saylor, Grayscale, or possibly stuff in Bitcoin ETFs, they're going to have to bid up the price of Bitcoin. And that can definitely get the price of Bitcoin to moon by taking a lot of the supply out of the marketplace. So that is definitely one way this stuff can actually happen. So that is something I'm really looking forward towards. Centralized stablecoins that rely on USD, they're not going to push USD up obviously because they can just print more USD. But since you can't actually print any more Bitcoin or some of these other cryptos, these decentralized stablecoins that are algorithmically backed and have to buy reserve assets to actually support themselves, they actually eventually have to bid up the price of Bitcoin, increase the demand of Bitcoin, and make Bitcoin more like a reserve. And if you really think about it this way, if these stablecoins end up being central to the decentralized economy, and the decentralized economy can perhaps challenge the centralized economy in the future, you're actually making Bitcoin a reserve currency this way without actually going through the IMF or the European Central Bank or the Fed. So you can basically de facto make Bitcoin the reserve, at least a big part of the reserve currency of the world without actually going through the big banks or the federal government. And there's not that much they can actually do to stop it except for hammer down the regulations on decentralized stablecoins. I don't really know if they're going to do that. There's a lot of proponents in Congress that would actually try to stop them from doing that because they actually have crypto investments. So this is getting very interesting. Not only will this actually moon Bitcoin in the future, it also props Bitcoin up to actually challenge the US dollar as the reserve currency. Now, this will actually take a few years. Obviously, all these projects have to develop their own decentralized stablecoins, and they have to slowly accumulate not USD, BTC. And after a certain point, the federal government's not going to want BTC to collapse because it'll take down so much of the economy with it. So it'll become too big to fail. So there's a lot of facets to this, and they're all positive for Bitcoin. So that is why I actually think that decentralized stablecoins will cause Bitcoin to massively moon in the future. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button, and I will see you guys later.